Hey there and welcome back to the channel. We're thrilled to have you join us today. If you're new around here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our amazing stories. Now, as we dive into today's tale, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop the name of your country in the comments below, and let's build a global community of amazing people like you. Let's take a moment to pray together. May the person watching this right now be filled with peace, strength, and love. May they find the courage to face whatever challenges lie ahead and know that they are never alone. Amen. Alright, now that we're all settled in, let's get into today's story, a tale that will surely leave you questioning everything you know about love, rejection, and second chances. Imagine this. You're in love, or at least you think you are. You've found someone who makes your heart skip a beat, someone who promises a future, a life you've dreamed about. You're happy. Everything seems perfect, but then, everything falls apart. Not because of something you did, but because of something you are. And in this case, it's something you can't change. Let's talk about Lisa. Lisa had always been a curvy woman, comfortable in her own skin, but when she met him, John, she thought she found her forever. John, a charming and successful man, had it all: good looks, wealth, and status. At first, Lisa didn't think much about his occasional comments on her body. She thought, he's just joking. But as the relationship progressed, she started to feel a shift, a subtle but undeniable one. Her confidence began to wane, and she started noticing the little things, things like how he looked at other women, how he commented on their appearance, and how those comments started to sting a little more each time. And then, one day, it happened. She was sitting with John in a cafe, just enjoying the quiet moment, when he turned to her and said it, "Lisa, you know, I've been thinking, you're just too fat. I don't think I can keep doing this." She couldn't believe what she was hearing. After everything they had shared, after all those sweet moments, he was telling her that she wasn't good enough for him, for the life they were supposed to build together. She felt as though the world had come crashing down around her. How could someone she loved, someone she thought loved her, say something so hurtful? Lisa sat there in silence, the words echoing in her mind. She wanted to scream, to cry, to ask him how he could be so cruel, but instead, she sat frozen, unable to comprehend what had just happened. It wasn't just a simple breakup. It wasn't just a fight, or a misunderstanding. It was an attack on who she was, on the very core of her identity. For the first time in their relationship, Lisa felt small, like nothing more than her physical appearance, reduced to a number on a scale. She thought back to all the time she had tried to be enough for him, all the time she had smiled through the awkward comments, pretending they didn't bother her. But now, it was clear, to him, she was never enough. She was just too fat, and there it was, the weight of his words. It wasn't about her heart, her kindness, or the love she had shown him. It was about her body, the one thing about her that she could never change, the one thing that had always been a part of her, and now, it was the reason everything had fallen apart. Lisa felt her world crumble. All the dreams they had talked about, the future they had planned, seemed to vanish in that instant. Her heart ached, and it wasn't just the heartbreak from losing John. It was the devastation of realizing that someone could love her only if she looked a certain way. She was no longer a woman with feelings, hopes, and dreams. She was just a body, just a size. She sat there, in that cafe, in disbelief. The man she thought she was going to spend her life with had just torn it all away with a single sentence. And it wasn't just the rejection, it was the rejection of her entire being. Her worth, her value, had been stripped down to something so shallow, so superficial, that she couldn't grasp it. She had always believed that love was about more than appearance. But in that moment, she wondered if she was wrong. Was she not enough? Was her body really the reason she couldn't be loved? Lisa left that cafe in a daze, walking through the streets without really seeing them. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions: anger, confusion, sadness, and most of all, shame. She had never felt so exposed, so vulnerable. And yet, she was alone. The days that followed were the hardest of her life. She tried to push forward, tried to move on with her routine, but everything felt hollow. The weight of John's words lingered, growing heavier with each passing day. She couldn't shake the thought that maybe he was right. Maybe she was too fat. Maybe no one could ever love her the way she was. She couldn't understand how she had spent so long believing that this relationship would work, that she was enough. But now, she felt like she was nothing. Her friends tried to comfort her. They told her she was beautiful, that she was worth so much more than her appearance. But Lisa wasn't sure she believed them anymore. She started to question everything, her self-worth, her confidence, and whether or not she would ever find love again. She couldn't help but think back to all those moments with John, all those little comments, the way he looked at other women, and the final crushing blow. But one thing she couldn't ignore was the pain of losing herself. For so long, she had tried to fit herself into a mold she wasn't made for. She had tried to meet his expectations, to be the version of herself he wanted. And in the process, she had forgotten who she really was. She was Lisa, a woman full of life, with a heart that cared for others, with dreams and goals and aspirations. But none of that seemed to matter to John. And now, in the silence of her own thoughts, Lisa realized something important. She needed to find herself again, not for him, not for anyone else, but for her. She needed to rediscover the woman she had been before she let someone else define her worth. A few months went by, and Lisa kept moving forward. She focused on herself, on her career, and on building a better life. Little by little, the pain of her heartbreak began to fade, and her confidence grew stronger. Just as she was starting to feel whole again, something unexpected happened. One Friday evening, while out with friends at a downtown lounge, Lisa accidentally bumped into someone at the bar. She had been carrying a drink back to her table when she collided with a tall, solid figure. The cold splash of her drink spilled onto the stranger's sleeve. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," Lisa exclaimed, immediately grabbing a napkin. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment as she reached out to blot the liquid on his jacket. The man gave a warm chuckle and gently took the napkin from her hand. "No harm done," he said kindly. In the dim golden light of the bar, he smiled at her, and Lisa felt her heart skip. She looked up and truly saw him for the first time. He was handsome, with bright green eyes and a friendly smile. There was an easy confidence in the way he stood that immediately struck her. His name, she would soon learn, was Alexander, an incredibly successful businessman who had built an empire from the ground up. But it wasn't his wealth or status that made Lisa pause. It was the genuine warmth in his eyes, a warmth she had never quite encountered before. Lisa managed a shy smile. "I'm really sorry," she said again, quieter now. "Really, it's all right," Alexander assured her. He dabbed at his damp sleeve with the napkin, then tossed it aside. "I've survived much worse spills." Lisa laughed softly, relieved by his light-heartedness. "I'm Lisa, by the way," she offered, tucking a strand of her brown hair behind her ear. "Alexander," he replied, extending his hand. She shook it, feeling a gentle firmness and friendliness in his grip. They were standing near the busy bar, surrounded by chatter and music. Alexander tilted his head towards the patio door. "Would you like to step outside for a moment? It's a bit noisy in here, and I could use some fresh air." Lisa's heart fluttered at the invitation. She glanced over at her table of friends. They were watching her with open curiosity and encouraging smiles. Gathering her courage, she nodded. "Sure, I'd like that." They moved out to the lounge's small outdoor patio, where the sounds of the city were softer and the summer night air was warm. A few other patrons mingled by the railing, but Alexander found a quiet corner table for them. He even pulled out a chair for Lisa, a gesture that was both polite and unexpectedly charming. She thanked him and sat down, and he took the seat across from her. For a moment they sat quietly. Lisa felt a flutter of nerves, but Alexander's calm presence put her at ease. "So are you having a good night?" Alexander asked, breaking the silence with friendly curiosity. Lisa smiled. "I am now," she admitted, then felt bashful at how honest that sounded. "I mean, I was having fun with my friends, but this is a nice surprise. How about you?" He smiled back. Definitely a nice surprise for me as well. I came here to unwind after a long week, and I didn't expect to literally bump into someone so interesting. Lisa felt warmth rise in her chest. It's been a while since I've met anyone new, she said lightly, tracing a finger around the rim of her glass. I almost didn't come out tonight, but my friends insisted I join them. Good friends, he noted with a grin. They began talking and soon found an easy rhythm. Alexander had a gentle, witty humor that made Lisa laugh. He had her laughing with a quick story about something silly that happened at work. Lisa shared a bit about her own life, mentioning the weekend art class she had started, and how painting was helping her relax and rediscover her creativity. Alexander listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed he really cared about her answers. When Lisa mentioned she loved to paint landscapes, Alexander's eyes lit up. "My mother is an artist," he said. "She used to take me to art galleries when I was a kid. I haven't painted in years, but I still remember how calming it can be." "Maybe you should try again sometime," Lisa suggested playfully. "It's never too late to pick it back up." He looked at her thoughtfully. "Maybe I will. You might have just inspired me, Lisa." The way he said her name made her stomach flutter. Time seemed to pass quickly as they talked. Lisa realized she was completely at ease with Alexander. She couldn't remember the last time conversation with someone new had flowed so naturally. He made her laugh, and he listened to her so attentively that she felt truly heard. After a while, Alexander glanced briefly back inside, then returned his warm gaze to Lisa. "I should probably let you get back to your friends soon," he said gently. "I didn't mean to monopolize your whole evening." He did sound a bit reluctant though, as if he was enjoying this as much as she was. Lisa was reluctant for it to end too. "They're probably wondering if I fell off the face of the earth," she said with a small laugh. Then she added sincerely, "But I've really enjoyed talking with you." "I've enjoyed talking with you too," Alexander replied. There was a soft earnestness in his voice that made Lisa's heart skip. They stood up from the table. As they started to head back inside, Alexander paused near the door. The muffled thump of music played behind them, and the city sounds hummed in the distance. "Lisa," he began, looking a touch hesitant, "I'd love to see you again. Could I have your number? Maybe we could get together sometime for dinner or coffee." A delighted smile spread across Lisa's face. "I'd like that," she said, trying not to sound too breathless with excitement. Alexander reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a sleek business card. He flipped it over and quickly scribbled on the back with a pen. "Here, this has my number," he said, handing it to her. Sure enough, on the blank side he had written a personal cell number. Lisa took her phone from her purse. "Let me give you mine too," she offered. He passed his phone to her, and she entered her contact info. They exchanged phones again, both smiling at the small symbol of trust. His fingers brushed hers as he took his phone back, and Lisa felt a jolt of pleasant electricity. She carefully tucked Alexander's card into her purse for safekeeping, her heart fluttering at this new connection. Together, they walked back to her group of friends. As they approached the table, Lisa could see her friends' faces glowing with curiosity and excitement. "Everyone, this is Alexander," she introduced him, cheeks warm with a mix of pride and disbelief at how the night had turned out. "We bumped into each other at the bar." Her friends greeted him warmly, and Alexander was polite and charming as he shook their hands. In no time, he had them laughing with a quick, good-natured joke about how clumsy he was for not watching where he was going. Lisa watched him in awe. He was so at ease, even in a group of strangers, and he seemed genuinely interested in everyone's name and what they had to say. Eventually, the night neared its end. One friend had to leave to catch the last train home, another stifled a yawn, and the group decided to call it a night. Alexander turned to Lisa, a hopeful softness in his expression. "I had a really great time talking with you," he said. "I'd love to see you again soon, if you're up for it." Lisa's heart skipped at the gentle earnestness of his tone. "I would love that," she replied softly. He smiled, clearly pleased. "Can I call you in a day or two? Maybe we can set up that dinner or coffee." "Absolutely," Lisa nodded. There was a charged pause between them. Then Alexander reached out and gently took Lisa's hand in his. In a sweet old-fashioned gesture, he lifted it and pressed a light kiss to the back of her hand. "Until next time, Lisa," he said warmly. Lisa felt her face flush with happiness. "Until next time, Alexander," she echoed. He gave a little wave to her friends, and then he turned and walked down the sidewalk toward his car. As soon as he was out of earshot, Lisa's friends erupted around her. Marisa grabbed her arm, eyes wide. "Oh my gosh, Lisa. Who was that, and where have you been hiding him all this time?" she teased. Lisa let out a laugh that was half joy and half disbelief. "Believe it or not, I literally spilled my drink on him," she said, shaking her head at how fate had intervened. They all laughed, agreeing it was the most fortunate accident of her life. As they walked down the sidewalk, Lisa glanced at the business card Alexander had given her. Only then did she notice his full name and title on it, Alexander Cole. She stopped short, realizing that was the name of one of the city's most prominent developers. Her friends noticed her expression. "No way! Is that who I think it is?" one friend gasped. Lisa nodded slowly, still in awe. They were shocked, but also thrilled for her. Alexander hadn't even mentioned his wealth or fame all night. "See?" Marisa said, squeezing Lisa's hand. "He likes you for you." Lisa smiled and let that sink in. With Alexander, she hadn't felt like she was with some billionaire. She had just been with a kind man who truly saw her. That thought comforted her. They decided to share a cab home since everyone lived in the same general direction. Soon a taxi was flagged down. Lisa hugged each of her friends. Goodbye as they were dropped off one by one, until she was the last passenger heading home. Gazing out the window at the city lights, Lisa finally had a quiet moment alone to reflect. The night had turned out so differently than she had imagined. It had been a long time since she'd allowed herself to connect with someone new, to feel those sparks of hope and excitement. Yet in one chance meeting, Alexander had breezed into her life and opened a door in the walls she'd built around her heart. She felt seen and appreciated in a way she hadn't in a very long time. When the cab pulled up to her apartment, Lisa paid the driver and stepped out into the cool late-night air. She climbed the stairs to her second-floor apartment, her footsteps light. Inside, the apartment was quiet and comforting. She slipped off her heels and sank onto her sofa, letting out a long, blissful sigh. As she was getting ready for bed, her phone chimed with a text message. Her heart gave a little leap as she picked it up. It was from Alexander. He was checking to make sure she'd gotten home safe, and thanking her again for the wonderful evening. Lisa's face lit up at his thoughtfulness. She responded right away that she was home safe, and that she had really enjoyed talking with him too. His reply came almost immediately, saying he was glad, and that he would love to see her again soon. He wished her a good night. Climbing into bed, Lisa felt a warmth in her chest that she had almost forgotten was possible. In the span of a few hours, her world had become brighter. She set her phone on the nightstand, a happy smile on her face. That night, she fell asleep with her heart full and hopeful. The next day, Lisa woke up late, with sunlight streaming through her curtains. From the moment she opened her eyes, her mind danced back to Alexander and the night before. It hadn't been a dream. Her phone held the proof in a friendly text thread that she read and reread, grinning at their easy banter. She spent the morning doing chores around the apartment, trying with mixed success to keep her mind from floating off into daydream. By early afternoon, her phone buzzed with a new message from Alexander asking if she was free for dinner that night, adding that he couldn't wait to see her again. Lisa laughed out loud at his direct invitation. Her fingers trembled with excitement as she replied that she would love to have dinner with him. Within minutes, the details were arranged. He would pick her up at 7 and take her to a restaurant by the harbor that he said was one of his favorite. The rest of the day flew by in a blur of anticipation. Lisa couldn't remember the last time she had felt so giddy. She rifled through her closet, searching for the perfect outfit, and finally chose a knee-length deep blue dress, with cap sleeves that made her feel confident and pretty. As she did her hair and makeup, a few nerves fluttered in her stomach. What if last night had been too good to be true? What if, In the daylight, things felt different. She felt a flutter of nerves at one point, wondering if everything that happened was real, but remembering the genuine warmth in Alexander's eyes and how he made her feel gave her confidence. By the time she finished getting ready, excitement had overtaken her doubts. At 7 hours on the dot, a knock sounded at Lisa's door. Her heart leaped into her throat as she grabbed her clutch and opened the door. Alexander stood there in the hallway, holding a single red rose and looking as handsome as ever. He wore a tailored charcoal suit without a tie, the top button of his shirt casually undone. When he saw her, his face lit up in a brilliant smile. "Hi," he said, his gaze taking her in appreciatively. "You look absolutely beautiful, Lisa." "Hi," she managed, cheeks warming. "Thank you, you look really good too." She accepted the rose from him and breathed in its sweet scent. "Let me put this in some water really quick." She blushed and thanked him for the rose. It was such a sweet gesture. After savoring its lovely scent, she locked her door behind her and slipped her arm through his, letting him lead her downstairs. Outside, a sleek dark sedan was parked at the curb. Alexander opened the passenger door for her and made sure she was comfortably inside before closing it and walking around to the driver's side. Lisa's nerves eased as soon as he got in and flashed her another warm smile. During the drive they chatted easily and shared a few laughs, and any of Lisa's remaining nerves quickly melted away. In what felt like no time they arrived at the restaurant. It was an elegant spot by the harbor, with a view of the water and the city skyline beyond. They were guided to a cozy table by a window with a lovely harbor view. From their seats they could see boats gently bobbing on the evening tide outside. "This is beautiful," Lisa said as she took in the atmosphere and the sparkling lights on the water. "It is," Alexander agreed, but his eyes were on her when he said it. That look made Lisa's heart flutter, and she knew he meant more than just the scenery. They perused the menu and continued to talk. Conversation with Alexander felt both exciting and easy, a rare combination. Lisa learned more about him. His company was indeed in real estate development, and he talked about starting with one small project right out of college, and slowly growing it into a larger enterprise. He spoke modestly, not bragging at all. He was also eager to hear about her work. When she described a few projects she was passionate about, he complimented her dedication and creativity, making her glow with pride. The food was delicious, and Lisa realized she had never felt so comfortable on a date. Though a few people greeted Alexander in passing, he remained focused on her, making her feel truly special. After dinner, Alexander suggested a short walk before heading home, and Lisa gladly agreed. The night was too lovely to end just yet. They strolled along a boardwalk by the harbor, a gentle breeze coming off the water. Above, the stars twinkled in a clear navy sky. They paused at the railing overlooking the harbor. The city lights shimmered on the dark water. Alexander stood close at her side, and after a moment, Lisa felt his fingers gently intertwine with hers. The simple gesture sent a warm thrill through her. "Thank you for tonight," Lisa said softly, her eyes on the glimmering waves. "I have to admit, I was a bit nervous, but this has been wonderful." Alexander squeezed her hand lightly. "I'm glad you came. I was nervous too," he confessed. "It's been a long time since I've met someone I connected with like this. With you, it feels easy." Lisa turned to face him and found him already looking at her. The tender expression on his face made her heart swell. In that moment, the rest of the world fell away. The murmuring waves, the distant city sounds, everything faded except for Alexander. "Lisa," Alexander said gently, "may I kiss you?" Her breath caught in her throat. There was such sincere respect and softness in how he asked that it made her eyes sting with happy tears. She managed to smile and whispered, "Yes." Alexander lifted a hand to cup her cheek. He leaned in slowly, giving her plenty of time to close the small remaining gap. Lisa closed her eyes as his lips met hers. The kiss was soft and sweet. Lisa felt her heart soaring. She melted into that gentle moment, savoring the warmth of his lips and the safe, strong feel of his hand holding hers. When they finally drew apart, Lisa opened her eyes to see Alexander smiling at her with pure affection. She let out a little laugh, full of joy and disbelief. "I've kind of wanted to do that since last night," she admitted, cheeks flushed. Alexander's grin widened. "You took the words right out of my mouth," he murmured. They stayed in each other's arms for another few seconds, both of them smiling under the night sky. Lisa felt like she might wake up from a dream at any second, but it was all real. The stars, the sea breeze, Alexander's hand in hers, and the tingle of his kiss still on her lips. Eventually they knew it was time to head back. Neither wanted the evening to end, but they shared the hopeful understanding that this was just the beginning. The drive back to Lisa's apartment was filled with light, happy conversation, and comfortable silences, fingers still interlaced between them. Outside her building, Alexander walked her to the front door. The street was quiet, and the soft glow of a street lamp cast a golden halo around them. "I had an amazing time," Lisa said, looking up into his kind, bright eyes. "So did I," Alexander replied, gently brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "When can I see you again?" Lisa felt that giddy flutter in her chest. "I'm pretty open this week," she said, playfully. "So, any time you want to call, I'll probably say yes." He chuckled softly. "Good to know. Expect a call very soon." He leaned down and pressed a tender goodnight kiss to her lips. "Good night, Lisa," he whispered. "Good night, Alexander," she whispered back. Lisa watched as he walked to his car, giving her one last warm smile and wave before he drove off into the night. She stood there for a moment, her heart glowing. Then she headed upstairs, hardly able to contain her excitement. Once inside, Lisa twirled around her living room and let out a joyous laugh, hugging a pillow to her chest in excitement. In bed, Lisa marveled at how quickly life could change. Only a few months ago she was mending a broken heart. Now she felt hope and happiness blooming inside her again. With Alexander's smile on her mind, she drifted into a peaceful, dream-filled sleep. The next morning, Lisa woke up feeling lighter than she had in months. The sunlight streamed softly through her window, casting warm golden patches across her room. She stretched and smiled, the memories of the previous night still vivid in her mind. Alexander's smile, his gentle touch, and the way he had looked at her, all of it felt like a fresh breeze blowing away the heaviness of the past. As the days turned into weeks, their relationship blossomed naturally. Alexander was more than just a kind man. He was someone who saw Lisa for who she truly was, her strength, her kindness, her passion for life. He never once mentioned her past or her appearance in a negative way. Instead, he celebrated her victories, encouraged her dreams, and made her feel truly loved. Their time together was filled with laughter, deep conversations, and quiet moments of connection. Alexander introduced Lisa to his world gently, a world of business meetings and charity events, but also one where kindness and integrity mattered most. He never rushed or pressured her. He simply let their love grow steady, and then came the day that would forever change the course of Lisa's life. It was a crisp autumn afternoon, and Alexander had planned a special outing. They drove to a beautiful garden, where the leaves were painted in fiery reds and gold. The air was cool, but comfortable, filled with the scent of blooming flowers and fresh earth. They walked slowly along the winding paths, hand in hand, talking about everything and nothing. Lisa felt a calm happiness settle over her, a feeling she hadn't known she'd been missing for so long. Alexander stopped near a quiet spot in the park, decorated with soft white ribbons and delicate flowers. He turned to Lisa, his eyes shining with warmth and tenderness. "Lisa," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "these past months with you have been the happiest of my life. You've taught me so much about love, strength, and what truly matters. I don't care about the past or anything anyone else has said. What matters is who you are, your heart, your soul, your spirit." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, velvet box. Lisa's breath caught as he opened it, revealing a simple but stunning ring. "Will you marry me?" he asked, his gaze never leaving hers. Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes. She nodded, words catching in her throat. "Yes," she whispered, her voice filled with joy and certainty. Alexander slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a warm embrace. In that moment, Lisa knew she had found a love unlike any other, a love that accepted her fully, without conditions or judgments. They were married a few months later in a beautiful ceremony, surrounded by friends, family, and loved ones. The day was filled with laughter, tears, and promises of forever. Lisa felt like she was finally in a place where she belonged, where she was loved, cherished, and accepted, exactly as she was. Life with Alexander was a new beginning. Together, they built a life filled with love, respect, and happiness. Lisa's past no longer held power over her. She was free to be herself, to shine brightly, and to live full. And through it all, Alexander stood by her side, not just as a husband, but as her greatest supporter, her partner, and her best friend. For Lisa, this was more than a happy ending. It was the start of a beautiful journey of love, acceptance, and the courage to be truly seen. She had found her happily ever after. One sunny afternoon, Lisa and Alexander were strolling through a bustling city park. The air was fresh with the scent of blooming flowers, and the sounds of children laughing and birds chirping filled the atmosphere. They walked hand in hand, their smiles bright, sharing stories and dreams about their future. As they turned a corner near a small cafe, Lisa suddenly froze. Ahead of them stood a man, casually dressed, but with a look of shock etched deeply across his face. It was John, her ex. John's eyes locked onto Lisa first. Then, his gaze shifted to Alexander walking beside her, calm and confident. The disbelief in John's expression was unmistakable. His mouth slightly opened, as if trying to say something, but no words came out immediately. Lisa's heart beat steadily, but she felt no fear or nervousness, only a quiet strength she hadn't known she had before. John took a hesitant step forward. "Lisa." His voice was low, uncertain, as though he could hardly believe what he was seeing. Lisa looked at him with calm eyes, then glanced back at Alexander, who gave her a reassuring squeeze of the hand. "Yes, it's me," Lisa replied softly, her voice steady and kind. She didn't need to say more. The message was clear. She had moved on. John swallowed hard and looked her up and down, taking in her radiant confidence, the way she held herself, the sparkle in her eyes. He glanced at the simple gold ring on her finger, the ring Alexander had slipped on during their proposal. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. The woman he had once dismissed, the woman he had cruelly called too fat, was now married to a billionaire, a man who adored her, respected her, and loved her unconditionally. Everything John had wanted, everything he thought he deserved, Lisa now had. His jaw tightened, and a small sign of regret showed on his face. But it was too late. Lisa had finally learned her worth, and it was not tied to anyone's shallow perception of her. Not John's, not anyone. Without a backward glance, she turned her attention back to Alexander, who smiled warmly at her. Together, they walked away, leaving behind the shadow of the past, and stepping fully into a future built on true love and respect. John stood there, stunned, as the distance grew between them, both physical and emotional. In that moment, he understood the cost of his cruelty, but there was nothing he could do to change it. Lisa's story was no longer about rejection, it was about triumph. John couldn't believe what he was seeing from a distance. The woman he had once dismissed, the one he had told was too fat, was now living a life he could only dream of. Lisa was radiant, happy, and confident. She walked beside Alexander, her husband, a billionaire who adored her every step. Their smiles, their easy laughter, the way they held each other's hands, everything showed a love deeper and truer than anything John had ever experienced. At first, John tried to deny it. He told himself it was just luck, that maybe Lisa was fooling herself. But the truth hit him hard. She was thriving without him. She was loved, cherished, and respected in a way he never gave her. It was a reality he could not escape. In a desperate attempt to fix what he had broken, John reached out. He sent messages, emails, and even tried calling. His words were filled with apologies, regret, and a wish to reconnect. But Lisa had no interest in going back. She had already moved on. She didn't respond to his messages. She didn't entertain his calls. She knew what she deserved, and it wasn't someone who judged her by her appearance or tried to tear her down. Lisa was living her best life, her true life. She had found a man who saw her for who she really was, someone who didn't define her by her looks or her weight. Alexander loved her completely, without conditions or complaints. For Lisa, the real victory wasn't in proving anything to John, or anyone else. It wasn't about showing him what he had lost. No, her true revenge was far greater. It was in living her truth. It was in waking up every day feeling proud of who she was. It was in loving herself fully, inside and out. And it was in building a life filled with love, happiness, and acceptance. So what powerful lessons can we take from Lisa's incredible journey? It's really quite simple. Your worth is never, and I mean never, determined by your appearance or the shallow opinions of others. No one has the right to make you feel less than amazing just because of how you look. The right person, someone who truly matters, will see your heart, your soul and every beautiful part of who you are, and they will love you for all of it. Lisa's story is about much more than rejection. It's about finding strength when you feel broken, rediscovering yourself when you feel lost, and rising above the pain to live your truth. It's about triumph, not over others, but over doubt, fear, and the voices that try to hold us back. Now I want to ask you, yes, you watching this right now, what part of Lisa's journey spoke to you the most? Have you ever felt judged or rejected because of something you couldn't change? How did you rise above it? Drop your story or a few words in the comments below. Let's build a community where we lift each other up, share hope, and remind each other of our true worth. If Lisa's story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. Together we can remind the world that every single person watching this is enough, just as they are. Remember, your best life is waiting for you on the other side of self-love and courage. Keep shining, keep believing, and always know you are enough. John's regrets, his late apologies, his attempts to come back, it all meant nothing to Lisa. She was no longer the woman who doubted her worth, or let others define her. She was strong, she was whole, she was free. And that, my friends, is where the real story lies. Lisa found something far more valuable than any superficial relationship or empty words. She found love, the kind that lifts you up and never lets go. She found self-worth, a deep knowing that she was enough, just as she was. And she found acceptance, both from others, and most importantly, from herself. That is the true power of her journey. So if you're listening today, and you're feeling rejected or unloved, remember Lisa's story. Remember that your worth is never measured by someone else's eyes. It's found in your heart, your spirit, and the way you choose to love yourself. Live your truth, cherish yourself, and never settle for anything less than the love you deserve. Because like Lisa, your best life is waiting for you, and that is the ultimate revenge. Thank you for being here. I can't wait to see you again in the next story.